Okay, so this is the reason why I say that people should have on, off, off for mercy settings. And if you don't know what it is that I'm referring to, talking about when you go into hero settings for mercy in particular, right? This should always be on for whatever role you play, for every single hero that you play. This should always be on, right? I'm talking about these specific hero settings for mercy. Toggle beam connection on. I just have that because I find that it allows for me to just play without having to worry about my beam being on or not. Like on someone. It's always just on. It's always just going to be on someone as long as I first click the initial thing to have it on. And then so I'll show you what these settings mean later. I just want to explain them first so you get the general gist of why it is that I have these settings. Guardian Angel prefers beam target is off because this allows for you to GA or shift or fly as mercy to anyone on your team. That's not just restricted to the person that you have your beam on, because there are a lot of situations where you need to GA to someone else on your team in order to keep the beam on a target that's even further away. For example, let's say that your Genji dash forward and you have to GA to your Hog who's between you and your Genji so that you can keep your beam on the Genji so that it doesn't disconnect, because it has like a leeway of about 1.5 seconds before the beam breaks. So yeah, you just want to make sure that like you don't have any restrictions for who it is that you could fly to, because it really makes a difference for mercy in terms of survivability and all that. And then toggle guardian angel, I of course have this off, and this is one of the most important abilities for mercy. Having this on makes her play feel very, very clunky in my opinion, and it makes it hard for you to gauge and when it is that you should stop GAing and to really get the hang of playing her. For people that don't play her, it's just like Diva Fly in the sense that as like when you're clicking left shift, when you're holding onto the button, that's when you are flying. If you let go, you stop. Like I let go here, I stop, right? But if you had toggle on, you would have to start. You would have to press shift once to start GA and then press it again to stop it. But that makes it really easy for a lot of mercies to overshoot their GA often. So I find that having toggle guardian angel to be on is really detrimental for mercy, and it makes it harder to play her because you need to rely more on muscle memory for mercy. And for a lot of players that flex to her, this will not be the ideal settings to play her, because if you're just flexing to her, you want for her kit to be as straightforward and as simple as possible without having any sort of pre settings that make it harder for her to play. Now let me show you about a couple other things that make mercy pretty easy. So if you hold your shift and crouch at the same time, preferably if you can, try to hit crouch about half a second before you hit your shift, and then when you get close to your target, you see how I just did a little dip. So crouching allows for you to go through doorways and stuff without so if I did a regular shift, right, I tend to fly up, right, fly in an upward trajectory. Meanwhile, if you crouch and do it, it allows for you to shoot in this kind of a line, in this kind of a line, but at this point you can press space here right before you get to your target to shoot yourself up, and that's how you do the super jump. So at that point, when you saw that my POV went from a little bit far up to it peaked down, and in that peak down, that's when you want to hold your space bar so that you can fly up. And that works for people who you don't have your beam on, that you have your beam on. Also, another reason why you don't want to have your shift on a toggle is that there are a lot of situations where as a mercy, maybe you'll be caught off by a flanker, like a Genji on the edge, or maybe a Winston is primaling you away from your team, right? If you had toggle on, and there was someone that peeked your LOS for just a second, you would have had to press toggle in that exact same second that you also saw someone in range for you to GA to. Meanwhile, with the opposite setting of having toggle GA off, it makes it so that as long as you're just holding onto shift, as soon as there's someone in any sort of frame or range of you being able to GA to that person, you will immediately begin to fly out. This has saved me in so many more situations than having the other settings have. And of course, I've tested each and every one of these settings extensively. So yeah, I hope that this sort of helps. Also, another tip. Sorry, I have two more, okay? Your beam doesn't disconnect for about 1.5 seconds, so you could keep damage boosting or healing people as long as you just occasionally peek out. So if you're always going to be playing behind walls, you don't need to always be looking at on LOS of someone that you're trying to pocket. So make sure you utilize this because it helps for you to decrease the time for when it is that the enemies can shoot you, because you're always trying to hide behind walls. Also utilize crouch a lot more than you can for spacebar. Everyone knows that you know, just jumping around aimlessly makes it very easy for experienced hit scans to just be able to predict when it is that you'll be slow falling from the jump. Like after you reach the highest peak, people will always fall in a straight, like, predictable line, and experienced hit scan players will just shoot you out. So try to instead spam crouch and predict, like, you know, randomly AD spam while while adding a few crouches. And doing this behind walls makes it really hard for widows or any hit scan players to be able to shoot you when you're peeking in that, like, 1 second to just, you know, refresh the beam on someone that you have your beam on. And the other tip I have for movement is that if you hold spacebar after you are finished with shifting, depending on when it is that you hit the spacebar, it allows for you to fly at different lengths. Let me just show you what a regular shift is without me using space at all. So if you just shift, it stops you right in front of your target. And then if you shift and then spacebar, right, like basically a little bit before you would stop, usually when you hold shift is would allow for you to gain almost double the distance if you really timed it right. Like there, like before with regular shift I just landed here, and with pressing spacebar right before I got to my target I was able to land right here. So using this allows for people to also, like, gain maximum amount of distance away from enemies, and, you know, keep yourself in safe distance from your target. But yeah, another thing I have to say is that after, so I don't know if you knew, but if you use your ult as Mercy, you get a free shift. So if you really wanted to gain the maximum amount of distance away from something, you could shift GA and then shift again. It allows for you to, like, be able to quickly pocket people and also get yourself out of a safe range. Usually GA has a 2-second cooldown, but using Q allows for you to reset that really quick. So yeah, that's pretty helpful. And then another tip I have is that I'm gonna let one of these bots die and I'll show you how to do the super jump res. So res allows for you to, like, walk away at a certain distance from when you're resing. And one of my favorite things to do is to super jump off of a dead body. So do super jump as you did before, and then hold spacebar so you slow fall, and then, you know, just res as regular. If you know, timing on that wasn't that great. And obviously if there wasn't, like, an object obstructing these bots, I probably could have timed it a lot better. But oh yeah, I forgot to say, but so you can only see this in third person, right? But if you continuously tap your spacebar while you're super jumped up, when you super jump or when you fly in general as Mercy, your wings pop out. That makes it easy to target her, to identify where the Mercy is. So sometimes when I am pocketing Pharahs, or when I'm just, like, super jumping and I want to be a bit more discreet, I constantly tap spacebar, and it allows for your wings to not constantly show. And I can't really show this except for not like in single person right now, but I promise you, like, if you try this with a friend, like, continuously, like, tap spacebar, like at the rate that you hear me spamming my keyboard like that, but obviously, like, a lot more quieter. And yeah, also a lot of Mercies tend to just, like, hold shift and spacebar the entire time to slow fall like this. But I find that if there's, like, an enemy widow or something shooting at you, let's say you're this high up, just, like, let go of all your keys and just drop straight down, because most widows and hit scan players expect for Mercy players to just, like, stay up in the air and just, like, for them to hold spacebar and for them to, like, slowly fall. Instead, just, like, randomize the rate at which you fall by tapping space at random times, or by you know, like, just completely dropping altogether. Lose all your momentum and just drop down. It can help you find cover more easily, and then just, you know, get out of harm's way. Anyway, that was my really short thing on Mercy. I hope you enjoy and that these settings help someone. I find that, well, I play with both, like, and all of the other settings and stuff. I think that changing the sensitivity for this kind of stuff is all up to you. I personally prefer to just play with 100 cents for both, and then just learning to play around this sense. Oh, okay. One more tip. I'm sorry. One more thing. Okay. So you there's a sweet spot range for where you could J to people before the indicator comes up. You know how there's usually a diamond, right, that shows up along with whatever button you have bound for GA? You can actually GA to targets before like the indicator even shows up. So let me, like, so before I was able to GA from around this much of a distance away from that target, right? So I'm gonna move a bit further back, like beyond the range where you think that I can GA to someone. I'm gonna hold GA this entire time, and then I'm going to, yeah, before the indicator even showed up, I was able to fly to the spot. And what I want for you to realize with this is that this allows for you to come back in team fights so much easier, so much quicker. Like, let's say you're dead, you're walking back from spawn, right? And you want to fly back as soon as you can. Just hold shift the entire time. With these settings, it will allow for you to be able to, like, you know, actually fly out. Instead of waiting on the other spectrum with a toggle where you would have to press shift, left shift, as soon as, like, you know, whenever it is that you knew the range was. And to be honest, I don't really know the range. Like, it's more of something that just comes with experience and with playtime. But yeah, these settings allow for literally, and I mean actually anyone to be able to play Mercy and play her at an okay rate. Like, these tips I hope will help you, you know. And yeah. Bye, that's all I have.